Welcome to Fucked Up Fables. If destroying your childhood is something you enjoy, you've come to the right place. This month's theme is weddings, and Inky Doo is bringing us the story of Pandora and her box, which sounds... Sorry. I went, like, teenage there.
We're 11-year-old boys, it's fine.
So, actually, I don't know this. What on earth does this have to do with a wedding?
Yes. So, realizing that our theme was weddings, I figured this was kind of appropriate because most people are probably like you and don't know much beyond Pandora had a box that she opened up and unleashed all of like the bad things in the world. And the story is like way more involved than that. So it just kind of slotted perfectly. So I do have a content warning for this episode, and it is so this episode includes torture, mutilation, and forced marriage. But I'm also going to label it as non-consensual relations because one of the people is unable to consent, and the other one consents under duress. So it's like you'll understand when we get there. It sounds.
Wait. Are you telling me that this is our second episode of 2021 and there's zero cannibalism?
Zero cannibalism.
Oh my gosh, it's a theme!
And
we did it!
And Hera is not in any way in this episode either.
So the Hera counter can retire.
Greek mythology with no Hera. It's gonna be, I'm impressed.
we should have a celebratory cake in a couple months if we keep up this no cannibalism theme. Oh wait, no, my story in March is gonna ruin that. So before March, if we keep up this non-cannibalism theme, we should totally have a cake and go to a baker and ask them to put congrats on not being cannibals or something. Have a professional literally write this on a cake.
I love it. Also, maybe we need to celebrate in March because my story in March technically also has cannibalism.
Oh man! We're going so strong. We're already there.
We're doing so well, and then cannibalism.
We can't stay away. It's just too good.
It's really hard to find stories that don't involve cannibalism. Just saying.
That's true. That is very true.
It is. It's crazy. It's like I try to find stories from Greek mythology that don't involve incest, and this is like maybe one of like the next 6 that don't involve incest.
It was a long, messed up lineage.
Oh, alrighty. So back to Pandora. So for the story of Pandora, we're gonna start before Pandora. We kind of like have to set the stage. So we're going to go way back in time to the time of the Titans. So for those who don't know, the Titans are kind of like the group of people who preceded the gods. And mixed in with the Titans are the primordial beings, such as like Nyx, who is the night sky, Chaos, Nyx's children, Death, Sleep. Like they're all kind of like primordial beings. Anyways. So we are going to focus specifically on the Titan Prometheus, which a lot of people probably know. So Prometheus actually means forethinker in Greek, and he was considered a very intelligent Titan. However, he was a trickster, and he had control over fire, so he's very similar to the Norse god Loki, who is the god of fire and mischief. And so because of this, he is considered a master crafter. So, Prometheus is the son of Iapetus and Clymene, and he has 3 brothers, Atlas, Epimetheus, and Menodius. I should have looked up how to say some of these names, but I definitely did not. So, the 4 Titans are considered to be the ancestors of humanity in Greek mythology, and so each one plays a part in creating the worst qualities that humanity has to offer. Not the good. These are the worst. So, yeah, our ancestors were a bunch of dicks. So, so Prometheus is sly and clever, which represents crafty scheming. Epimetheus is inept and dumb as a fucking doornail. So he represents foolishness and stupidity. Atlas is strong and powerful and able to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders, which represents daring to the point of excess. And then lastly, we have Menodius, who is considered to be an arrogant titan, and he actually represents violence in humanity. So Atlas, obviously, I talked about briefly in Hercules. So just a quick recap. Um,
Which
he was
one?
he was cursed by Zeus to hold up the sky because he sided with the Titans during the war with the gods. So essentially, what happened is the gods rose up to fight the Titans and take over control of the world, and things didn't go so well for the Titans. So Atlas's brother, well, I guess all of their brothers. So Menodius also sided with the Titans. That's pretty much all that's really known about him. I mean, he was sent to Tartarus. Specifically, I believe he would have been sent to Erebus, which is where the like evil beings and primordial beings and stuff live in the underworld. And they're like never allowed to come back up. So then, with those two gone, we just have Prometheus and Epimetheus. And they both survive and are allowed to live on Earth because they actually sided with the gods during the war, not the Titans. So, although they sided with the gods, Prometheus kind of didn't really care for the gods, and he wanted to make something of note for himself to like make himself just hit my desk make himself like important. So he created from some clay humankind. So Prometheus is the like forefather, if you will. So the gods didn't particularly mind this because it kind of gave them like people to worship them and offer them tribute and for them to, fuck around with Zeus. But they didn't want to share their knowledge with these like dumb beings. So they didn't want anything that they knew how to do be given to them. Why? I
Rude.
don't know. They're greedy bastards. What can you do? So Prometheus didn't feel like that was cool. Like he believed that knowledge should be shared between everybody. It shouldn't just be like hoarded. So when he looked upon his creations and saw that they were cold and hungry and scared of the dark, he decided to try and fix their problems by giving them fire. So a lot of people know Prometheus is one who made fire. Zeus did not like this, so one night when Prometheus snuck out to the humans, he brings them the gift of fire. So we got the gift of fire. And Zeus, upon seeing this, is absolutely outraged. He cannot believe that this Titan double crossed him. He won't stand for it. So he orders that Prometheus be brought to him for punishment. So, as his punishment, Prometheus is taken to a mountain and they chain him up to this giant boulder. And then he summons an eagle that comes, and the eagle's task each day is to come and peck away at Prometheus until it can reach his liver and then eat it. And then
Rude.
every day, when the eagle leaves, Prometheus's liver will replenish and his skin will come back, and then the next morning the eagle comes. And this is his punishment for eternity.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's creative. You've got to give them credit.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
creative.
the Titans were immortal. Like, you couldn't kill them, so this is, how they punished them. So, if you remember back to my Hercules episode, Hercules actually kills this eagle and frees Prometheus during his 12 labors to become a god. So that's kind of where that little overlap. He encounters two Titans. Imagine that shit. So before Hercules appears, so Prometheus is still chained up dealing with this eagle bullshit. His last remaining brother, Epimetheus, comes to pay him a visit. Now, whereas Prometheus means forethinker, Epimetheus means afterthought, so he is considered to be the opposite of Prometheus, which is why he's dumb as fuck and ignorant. So Epimetheus was actually given a task by the gods to give all living creatures a positive trait. So he went around to all of the animals and whatnot and like bestowed a gift on them. But then when he came to newly created mankind, he didn't have any gifts to give, which is why he's afterthought.
Whoop.
Yes, humans. He's not so
You
good.
know what? We're probably better off without his gift
I don't know. He gave all the other animals good gifts, so
I don't know if he's the afterthought. I feel like he would be just like scrounging for some. Oh, sorry, I forgot, you guys. Here, have plague. Plague is good, right?
they were supposed to be positive traits. So he gave
Plague is positive, right?
I mean, true.
You say he's dumb as a rock, so that's what I'm imagining. Like he just doesn't get it.
He is kind of dumb. Like you'll see, he has no common sense whatsoever. So
Like
anyway,
he would be the person to give humanity smallpox blankets. Like that's what I'm imagining.
so Epimetheus goes to visit Prometheus and to just kind of like check in on how he is, which I imagine Prometheus is like, I'm being eaten alive by a bird every day. Life's great. But
This glorious
Epimetheus,
living.
right, it's the best luxury 5-star 10 out of 10. So Epimetheus hasn't really had like an issue with the gods, simply because he's just like flown under the radar. So he's not doing anything the gods don't take notice. So when he goes to visit Prometheus, Prometheus gives him a warning, and his warning is, do not take anything the gods offer, which Epimetheus is like, duh, why would I take something from them when I'm staring right at like what their punishment will be? Spoiler alert, he does.
He forgot. Like, don't take anything from the gods except this one thing that he decided to take because I mean I'm sure it's fine, right? This one
Right,
thing,
that's his whole thought process. So
right?
after this like conversation with Prometheus, he kind of retreats back to his little home in the woods and just continues to live out this lonely life. So, because Zeus is just like his sister wife Hera, he has to have his eyes on everything at all times. So he sees Epimetheus talking to Prometheus, and he does not like this. So he decides that Epimetheus needs to be punished as well because he feels that there's like some sort of scheming going on. So he decides that for this punishment, he's going to have his son Hephaestus create a being. So
Did
the
you say
god,
create a bean?
a being, being,
It's like, and
being.
now we're in Jack and the Beanstalk territory.
Yeah, he's gonna make a giant bean, and from this bean, yeah, no. So he gets clay so we can make a person.
Okay.
And he creates a beautiful woman that is said to rival that of the looks of any goddess. Because Prometheus created man, Hephaestus creates woman. So just clarifying that.
Ah, got it.
Yeah, she's the first woman. So Zeus, pleased with this work, asks for the other gods to grant her some gifts. So kind of like everyone gives her like a gift or 5. So I'm just going to cover like a handful that are kind of pertinent to this. So Athena teaches the woman how to weave and embroider, because for those who don't know, Athena is considered a master weaver. Aphrodite gives her grace unending and what is literally described as cruel longing. And I tried so hard to look up exactly what cruel longing meant, and I couldn't figure out
Cruel
how
longing?
to, yeah, how to explain what cruel longing.
Wouldn't it be like forever wanting something that you could never have?
I guess I don't know. Like I tried so hard to look up what they meant by cruel longing, and I just could
That's
not
a
figure it out.
gift?
Yeah, that was her grace unending and cruel longing were Aphrodite's gifts to her.
Well, it's Aphrodite. I bet it's like longing after, like unrequited love, right? Like longing after a guy.
I have no idea. Just said cruel longing. I don't know. Again, I tried really hard to figure it out. I just couldn't. So, anyways, so Hermes gives her the gift of speech and lying.
Is
And
everything like a good and a bad?
no, you'll see. And he is also the one who gives her a name, and her name is Pandora. So, Athena and a couple other of groups get together to clothe her. And these other groups are the Charities, the Horae, and Persuasion. And together they come up with this beautiful gown that was as dark as night, and then they crown her in this beautiful veil and cover her in jewels. So I threw a lot of names out there, so we're just going to kind of take a small little break to explain some of these, because the gods I'm sure are pretty familiar, but like some of these other ones I don't think most people are going to know. So the Charities are also known as the Graces, and they represent beauty, charm, and fertility. So they are a a triple goddess, and they are the daughters of Zeus. They're not really super important, but I did want to point out two things. One, they are not the same thing as the Muses. Muses are an entirely different thing. And two, there is a charity named Talia, and that is also the name of a muse, but they are not the same person. So I just want to clarify that.
It's a common god name. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. So another one that I said were the Horae. So the Horae were the goddesses of the seasons, and they're also a triple goddess. Now, I'm sure someone is out there wondering, I just said they're the goddesses of the seasons, which means there should be 4 of them, there's only 3. So the reason that there are only 3 goddesses of the seasons is because winter is actually controlled by Persephone when she travels to the underworld to live with Hades each year.
And contrary to Lore Olympus, it's not a love match.
I may eventually cover that one. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Just saying.
I almost did it for this one, but I thought this was a much better wedding story.
Yes,
So
probably.
then the last goddess that I mentioned is Persuasion, or Pethio. And she is exactly what her name is, and she is the Greek goddess personification of persuasion, both sexual and political. So all forms of persuasion are hers.
Well.
And so this is important because she is the right-hand man, if you will, of Aphrodite. So she is like always, that person that stands like one step behind Aphrodite. So she's there for the whole Trojan War that goes on, all of that, and she is actually said to be part of the reason why the events happen that lead to the Trojan War. Yes.
Well.
So she's not to be trifled with, just saying. Let me finish my drink real quick. All right, so now that that's done, back to Pandora. So Zeus is pleased because, of course, he is. She's hot as fuck. That's all he cares about. So
You didn't bang her first?
no,
I'm surprised.
no.
I'm a little disappointed in Zeus.
He's got his own fuckery stuff to go. He has to make up for Hera in this, okay?
I guess. I just thought that anything with tits he would go for. So.
True. No, I guess
And
clay.
this is a new thing.
He draws the line at clay people, I guess. I don't know.
I guess you gotta have that line somewhere.
I just say I don't know. So Zeus takes Pandora to the home of Epimetheus, and Zeus greets him like they were old friends. Like, hey, how's it going? I haven't seen you in a while. It must be lonely out here. What can I do to help you? I have the perfect thing. I brought a gift. So that's when he pulls up Pandora and presents her to Epimetheus. And he's like, look, I brought you a beautiful wife. Now you won't be so lonely. And this presents Epimetheus with a choice: decline the gift and bring the wrath of Zeus upon himself, or accept her and all the possible scheming that the gods have in store by this offer. And you'll never guess what Epimetheus chooses.
Cheese.
So he decides that taking Pandora as his wife would be the better option and decides to agree to this marriage.
Isn't that a gift from the gods?
It is a gift from the gods.
Dum-dum.
So Pandora is happy and excited and probably a little bit nervous. Reminder, she is only like 5 minutes old. Okay, this is why I said she can't consent to this marriage. She's 5
She has
minutes
no
old.
idea what's going on.
And so she's being forced to marry this Titan, but like he seems pretty nice and he's not like ugly, I suppose.
But this is all just a big scheme, right? Like,
And like this was her entire purpose. She was made to marry this Titan. Like that was the only reason she was created, was to fuck
poor
shit.
Pandora.
So before Zeus leaves, he takes Pandora aside and says, I have a gift just for you because all brides get a gift on their wedding day. And he hands her a Pithos jar with a lid on it and tells her that under no circumstances should she open it. And
That's
then,
a dumb gift.
and then with that
Here's a
message,
present that's all wrapped up for you, but you can never open it. Just look at
right.
it.
So then with that message, he disappears and leaves them alone. Now, for those who don't know
Useless
what a
stuff.
Pithos jar is, so the best way I can describe it is in the Disney Hercules movie when they do the crazy montage for Zero to Hero. And they show him like on the urns that they have. It's kind of like that without the handles. And then they would have like little spikes or something that would stick out all around the lip of it, and they would take a piece of leather and stretch it over it and like poke it through to keep it sealed. So it's like their version of preserving or jarring up something. It's called a Pithos jar. Now, this is the box for Pandora's box, and all it is a translation. I don't want to say error because it's not an error. It's just when there are different ways that you can translate text from other languages. Some people do it very literally. Some people make it a little bit more like updated. So eventually we didn't use Pithos jars anymore. So like the closest thing that we would have to that particular item would be a box with a lid that closes. So that's where Pandora's box comes from.
The Bible is actually a good example of language being adapted for the time
Yeah.
because you have, as it's been translated, particularly around King James the First, everybody knows his Bible, King James Bible. It was created and specifically worded in ways that reaffirmed his power. And then you come up to like modern Bibles, which are specifically translated without the these and thous, and it's put into a context that makes it easier for like a modern day person to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So like this happens all the time
Yeah,
because
yeah,
our concept of language evolves over time. So you
it
could,
does.
for
Yeah,
instance, Mary Magdalene, you can look at her and be like, well, this word obviously means prostitute, but that word now translated into our language doesn't necessarily mean that anymore. Back in the 1300s or whatever, when they had that word, that might have been what it meant. But now they're like,
yeah, yeah. There's especially with like the ancient Greek text. I know that there was this female linguist who recently did her translated version of the Iliad or the Odyssey. I don't, whichever one came first. Odyssey. Fuck, I
I
don't
have no
know.
idea.
I should know this, and I don't. So, anyways, like there are several that are like the official versions, like the ones that everyone uses of the translated text. But she kind of came under a lot of hate from the white male community for some of her choices in there because like she went for a more literal translation. So like instead of calling this person, oh, they were a prostitute or a whore, she calls them a young girl because that's what they are. They're young girls.
So, right,
Or
that
slave.
language,
Yeah.
those words had multiple
Oh
meanings.
yeah.
And actually, the word for prostitute literally meant prostitute or whore or young woman or young
Yeah.
unmarried woman is what I think it was. Like, there's different meanings, and certain meanings were selected for very specific reasons, usually to reflect on the time that it's being translated, to reinforce some sort
Yeah.
of societal standard.
Yeah, I know another big one was that there's a term that they use in a most translated text. They refer to them as like servants or maids or like a kitchen worker or something like that. And she's like, they're slaves. Like they're literally slaves. Call them what they are. They
Yeah,
are
back then.
black and brown slaves. Don't call them, like a scullery maid or something. Like that's not what they are or were. This word being slaves. So it's
And
just things like that. And
we also do this in our podcast because,
yeah.
I mean, like for instance, what was it, the 12 Dancing Princesses? They called them the black servants or whatever. And I'm like, they're slaves. They're obviously slaves. Like,
Yeah.
Can we not whitewash this?
Yeah, exactly. And so, but like things like that, the box thing, that's where like the whole box comes from, is that
It's
just
just
sort of,
a container.
yeah, translation. Like I said, I don't want to call it an error because it's not an error. It's just the way that things are translated can take on a different context to make more sense.
Pandora's Tupperware.
Yeah, like, we're not gonna know what the fuck. I had to look up what a Pithos jar was. I legitimately had to look up and see an image and be like, what? Okay,
Yeah,
like,
because I think of the amphora when I think of ancient Greek.
yeah, like I'm like, okay, this is fine. So, anyways, I just wanted to like explain why we call it a box rather than a Pithos jar, which is what it is. So, anyways,
I still really like Pandora's Tupperware.
yeah. This is my Tupperware brand.
she
Tupperware.
she has an MLM party where she brings up all the other gods and goddesses and shows her Tupperware and tries to sell it.
You know that Hera will be all over that shit. She'd be
Pandora's
like,
Tupperware party.
yes, I need one of every Tupperware. Yeah. So, anyways, so Pandora takes this jar and she puts it in the house and just kind of forgets about it. Like she's 10 minutes old. She's gonna forget about it. So she decides to spend the day with Epimetheus to kind of get to know him, and he comes to find out that she is very curious, which makes sense because she is a baby and doesn't know anything. And he kind of finds it like endearing, and so when she asks a question, he answers, trying to explain everything as best as he can. So it's like, why is the sky blue? Why does the ocean have waves? What is a fire and why does it burn? Just like questions like that, like a child would ask. Like, just all sorts of stuff. So they have this like happy honeymoon phase for a while, and kind of as time goes on, Epimetheus starts to find it a little less endearing and kind of annoying and tiresome, which, as a mom, I completely agree with. But then my child will ask me some weird ass fucking questions, like I will forever remember. How does our skin stay on our bones? And that exact phrasing is what I was asked one day, just randomly. There was no context because there was nothing going on. And she's just like, "Mommy, how does our skin stay on our bones?" I was like, "Well, let me break this down for you." Like,
Do we have time for this? All right, here's an anatomy book.
or like, what's the post going around Facebook? Is a goose a predator? Like some questions are just too
From my
important.
personal experience, yes.
Just like crazy things like that. So like I get it, especially when like they continue, that's all they do is ask questions and you're just like, please stop asking questions. It's like I get it. I can't blame him. And she is relentless in her questions. She has a question to fill every second of every single day about everything and anything. So it kind of like puts him in a sour mood, which understandable. So from Pandora's perspective, she just yearns for knowledge. She doesn't know anything, and her only means of obtaining knowledge is through Epimetheus, because they're the only people there. So she's like learning all that she can during the day, and then as like time progresses, she starts to find that at night she has a lot of trouble with sleep. Like she cannot sleep. And the reason that she can't sleep is because she starts to hear voices whispering to her. And she knows that they aren't hers and they aren't familiar, so they're not like the voice of the gods that she briefly met for a split second. Um, but like she hears them and they're whispering to her to open the lid on the jar. Like just crack it a bit, take it off, see what's inside. Like you can do it. We have faith in you. Let us free. And as time goes on, she like starts to suffer from it because she can't sleep. All she hears are these voices that just, start off as a whisper and get louder and louder and louder. So eventually she reaches her breaking point and goes to Epimetheus to tell him what's going on. And he's like, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it. Like, just go about your day." So he goes inside, picks up the jar and leaves, and just goes and hides this jar from her. And then, like, for a few nights, she's totally fine, has peace, and then wakes up one morning and the jar is back where it was in the house. And then that night she starts to hear the voices and just like repeats over and over and over again. So,
Creepy.
yeah.
It's like the
So,
Ouija board that can't go away.
so Epimetheus assumes that Pandora somehow like found the jar and kind of scolds her for it before taking it to go hide it again. But then, that night the jar appears again. She hears the voices. She can't sleep. It's just telling her nonstop, open me, open me, open me, open me. So morning comes and Pandora is a hot mess. I can't even imagine. And she goes crying to her husband to tell him about this and is like, I need you to do something because whatever you're doing isn't working. And he's like, I don't know what to do, but do not open up that jar. Like,
If it's
Zeus
speaking
said,
to you, don't open it.
Zeus said, don't open
Life
it.
lesson number 92. Don't
Don't
open
do
jars that speak to you.
it. So he tells her, he's like, I need to go hunting because we need food. We need like some supplies. I will be right back. It's during the day. You'll be fine. Just like do your weaving and kind of like put it out of your mind and we'll see what we can do when I get back. So he leaves and Pandora starts like doing her weaving and all of a sudden during the day she starts to hear the voices again. So they start whispering to her, tempting her to open up this jar. And this is the first time it's ever happened during the day. And like no matter what she does, she can't focus on anything but these voices telling her to open up the jar. So they're just telling her, open us up, take a peek, see what we could be, look inside. And she starts to think that, Zeus obviously gave it to her and he wouldn't just give her an empty jar. So, like, there has to be something inside of this jar. And so her resolve starts to break and her curiosity overrides everything else. And she just has to know what is inside this jar. She has to know. So she goes and takes the jar and takes it outside. Smart move, kind of. I also would not open up a jar from the gods in my own house. Just saying.
Especially speaking to you.
And so when it's outside, she decides to just, peek a little bit, lift it up, peek, and opens up the lid. And then all of a sudden, these like spirits just rush out of the jar. And the moment she sees that, she's like, whoop, nope, closes it, right? But the damage is already done, and these spirits are not good by any means. They are evil. And all of the evil has just escaped this jar and starts to taunt Pandora, like, haha, you're a fool, sucks to be you. And then they fly off to corrupt mankind with their evil.
Yay! Welcome back to the host.
right. So Pandora agrees because she now has the knowledge that she has doomed her own kind. And it kind of like weighs heavily on her. Like I would also be emotionally compromised.
Smidge sad.
Yeah. And so like she's sitting there crying, this jar is there, and then she starts to hear this other voice. And it's this calming, warm voice, and it tells her, don't fear, my name is Hope, and I will remain as a light for mankind. So this kind of like fills her with relief and, like lightens her spirits because, there is hope out there. Doesn't appease the guilt that she feels.
Only if she lets it go.
So, so later, Epimetheus returns from his hunting and he learns what Pandora has done. And he, instead of getting angry and being like an abusive asshole, is actually kind of sweet. And he consoles her and tells her that there was nothing that could be done against the will of the gods. Like it was going to happen. There was nothing she could do. So they have a nice little family together. They have a couple of kids. Most notably is the child Hera, who will marry King Deucalion, and then they will actually be the two sole survivors of the Great Deluge, which in Greek mythology is the Great Flood. So it's the Great Flood from the Bible. And that is the story of Pandora and her box.
Did she ever let hope go, though? Like, if she keeps it in the jar, it's never gonna go out for mankind.
I'm assuming that she lets it go or it does its own thing, whatever. And then this marks what is like the end of the golden age of mankind at the hands of the gods. So this is like what brings about all of the horrible things that we start to do, so, like wars and shit, all sorts of things. So um, I'd just like to point out, so Zeus's anger at the Titans and their creation of man is never really fully like contained, and this is probably why he likes to go around raping women and forcing them to have kids. Because yeah.
Okay.
Um, and I did have a moral for this story. Oh, you're gonna love it. So the
What can
moral
we
of this
learn?
story is very similar to the moral of like every Greek story ever, which is don't do things for Zeus.
Just don't get involved with the gods at all.
When Zeus comes to you, you said, no, no, back off. Don't come here. This is the line. Do not cross it. Okay. That's my moral. So there you have it.
It's interesting, because I actually have two additional morals that have been put on me as a person, I guess a child. I kind of explained one to you before we started
Yeah.
recording. This story I remember specifically being told to me as a way to explain why curiosity is bad and why you should like rein in your curious thoughts. Because I'm a very, very curious person, like destructively so.
That was
And
Pandora.
I would have been Pandora in a heartbeat, but only much sooner. I would have been like, dude, as soon as Zeus walked away, what's this?
Right.
Yeah. So like, I have no self control when it comes to curiosity. So like, this was a story I remember specifically being told that like you should not be this way. And then I also remember as I got older, I think it was maybe in college in some sort of class. Can't remember which one at the moment, but they used this as an example of how these stories were used to sort of rein in women because you had a woman who thirsted for knowledge, who then like all the bad things in the world happened because that woman wanted to know something. So it's like
Yeah.
used as a way to be like, see, women can't know anything because when they do, when they're educated, shit hits the fan. When really it was all just a man trick anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if, see, I don't think this was ever like told to me in like any sort of cautionary way or like look at how evil woman is, which is a lot of ancient texts are written in that way, women are evil, yada yada. Um, I don't think I ever had this like sort of portrayed to me that way. It was always, like, I guess that might be cautionary, more like bad things can happen, but sometimes good things can come from the bad, because like
Yeah.
she releases all of the evil, but she brings with it hope because humanity didn't have hope until she opened up that jar. So I don't
I
know. It's
I think
interesting.
that's probably the real meaning, is that like hope overcomes everything.
Yeah,
And
there's always
yeah,
hope.
yeah,
Yeah.
but no, it's just used as a way to keep women down.
Oh yeah, I know Greek mythology especially is horrible at that. There are a lot of I'm just going to use the term man washing in Greek mythology instead of whitewashing, man washing. Yeah, they put a lot on women that was not,
Good word. Trademarked.
yeah, man washing. They man
Man
washed a lot.
that also that also sounds like something else.
We are 11-year-old boys.
Let it happen today. It has been a crazy ass week. We're allowed to find joy in the smallest of things.
Right. So, yeah, this is the start of my mythology spree. I don't think I have any non-mythology story planned until like April. So I hope you guys enjoy the mythology. It's not all Greek, I promise. Like I made sure that I threw in some non-Greek in there. I feel like if I had known this at a younger age that I could make money off of this, I definitely would have done that for college. Did not know that.
That's all that Inky do had for us today. make sure if you're listening to this on the podcast, you visit us on YouTube so you can see our lovely faces. That is at F asterisk UCKED Fables. So up Fables, sorry. So it's essentially fucked up Fables, where the U in fucked is an asterisk because censors.
Because people don't like the arts and they want to censor us. Fuck
To be
them.
fair, I remember learning in high school in one of my very awesome English classes that the word fuck is the most powerful word in the English language because it can mean almost anything. So we should not be afraid of this word, but censors are, so.
Exactly.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can also check out our podcast if you just want to pop in some headphones and listen to our episodes that way. I believe that's the same. F asterisk UCKED up
Yeah.
Fables.
Yeah, I think
You
so.
can find us on Spotify and pretty much anywhere podcasts are hosted. Or you can also go, or I should say, and you can go to Facebook and join our lovely community of other people who really enjoy the fucked upness of all of these classic stories.
It's the
And
exact same. It's the same
huh?
handle.
And
Yeah.
I think the cover photo is of a mushroom house, so that's how you know that you found the right place.
Mushroom houses. We should change it to something. No, Facebook might not like that. I was gonna say cannibals, but
we need to come up with like a tagline that's like something to do with cannibalism. Welcome to Fucked Up Fables, where cannibalism is common.
I feel like we need to do a cannibalism month. Like just a whole month dedicated to stories around it.
But,
It's become a thing now.
but if we did a cannibalism month, it won't be any different than our other months.
Maybe we should do a whole month where we purposely don't do cannibalism.
It's gonna be hard.
I don't know. We might manage this month with having no cannibalism.
I don't know. I don't know what my next episode's going to be, and I don't know if I'm next week or not, or if Vi is going to be able to make it back. She's getting married in like 2 weeks.
No, Bye's the weekend after. So
So it is
we
me.
have next week, which will be either you or me. It's up to, I guess, us which one we want to go with. And I guess if you do this month, I can do.
Can you see this? I literally just opened this up to the Hare's Bride. Guess I found my next story.
And then I can do the extra one in February that we'll have. And then March is just gonna be a hot fucking mess.
I've already picked out my liquor.
Ah, shit. I have to do that, don't I? I just drink wine. Man, I'm telling you.
Maybe go sober until then.
No, because remember I said that I have to be drinking in order to research and write my paper. Otherwise, Lord Dionysus would not approve.
I'm thinking about winging it, like reading the story before and then having the story in front of me and going through it and just seeing what my fucked up mind will
I
say.
feel like we have to do shots before we even, like, first thing when we start, just we all take a shot.
Cannibalism shots! Every time we mention cannibalism, take a shot.
Right, I was saying both of our stories do involve cannibalism in March, so I guess we gotta see if Vi's doing cannibalism in March.
Yeah.
Would it be a fucked up story if it didn't have cannibalism?
Well, then this whole month would be shot.
Your next one might have cannibalism.
It might. Suspense. I'm holding all of us in suspense, including myself.
Yeah, I don't have cannibalism next month. I definitely have necrophilia next month.
Ooh, good one. All right. I think that's all that we have. Before this goes too far off the rails. Bye.
Bye.